Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And once again, the police are not your friends. We've reported on this before, but now new figures reveal the full depth of the depravity of police forces all over the country. The police are on a grand scale, and we're talking at least 13,000 times, have detained and searched children, and by searched I mean undressed till nothing, and had them searched, including voids, bodily voids. Some of these children are as young as 10, and in 4 out of 5 cases, nothing was found. Are the police doing this purely for the safety of the public, or are they just indulging themselves on children? Let's look at the report. So here's the headline: stripped of their dignity. More than 13,000 children have been searched by police in the last 6 years, and at least 2 were under the age of 10, shock figures show. I'm shocked. What on earth are policemen doing undressing and searching children? This is just wrong. Police have searched more than 13,000 children since 2016, including at least 2 under the age of 10, a shocking Daily Mail investigation reveals. The data exposes an extraordinarily racial bias, with black children making up 60% of the under-18s searched by some forces. And I will point out here that black people in this country represent about 3% of the population. So there's undoubtedly racial bias on this. The police are we're not just talking because it's a high density black area. That this is beyond that. This is way beyond like a high density black area. This is screaming racism from the police. But it's also extraordinary that 13,000 children are searched by police. At least 13,255 children have been searched in the last 5 years. And like I say, what we mean is completely, absolutely searched. With more than 3,228 coming after a 15-year-old black schoolgirl known as Child Q was searched at school while menstruating. The real figure is likely to be far higher, with just 28 of the 43 forces across England and Wales providing data to the Freedom of Information requests. So it could be possibly double that. You could be looking at somewhere between 25 and 30,000 children. Data obtained by the Daily Mail suggests the use of the controversial tactic almost doubled between 2017 and 2020 across police forces outside of London. In 80% of cases, nothing illegal was found. So 4 out of 5 times these searches are done. There's no reason for it. It's not only very, very dodgy in terms of why is a policeman doing this. Well, you've got the racial bias, undoubtedly. But it's needless. Are the police doing this simply to humiliate? Is it a form of punishment? Do they need to do the search, or are they just humiliating these children? This is abnormal. This is wrong. I'm not saying that the police needn't search, but the searches on this scale is unfounded. It's unbelievable. So, although most forces did not provide the ages of the suspects, this includes 2 children aged under 10 who were searched by Cumbria police in 2016. And they'd probably be white because Cumbria is almost exclusively white. Cumbria Constabulary said the officers had been concerned a man had hidden product on his children and they had been undressed by their father in front of the police. No product was found and the force has not provided their exact ages, but if that's the case, you can guarantee they could be as young as 5. I mean, for heaven's sake. A spokesman said there was no direct contact made by the officer and the children's safety and welfare was paramount. That is beside the point. You had a grown man, a stranger, in a room looking at 2 children who were undressed. This is clearly wrong. What on earth is going on? The investigation lays bare the extent of the tactic just days after the Children's Commissioner asked all police forces in England and Wales to provide figures on how many children have been searched in this way. Dame Rachel D'Souza wrote to forces after discovering that 650 under-18s underwent intrusive and traumatising searches by the Met Police alone between 2018 and 2020. That's one a day. They're basically doing one a day, and that's just the Met. And they're talking, like I say, invasive searches, so, body cavities. She was given the data that did not provide the full picture, however, and the real figure is more than 7 times higher. A wide-ranging investigation found that, in fact, Scotland Yard conducted nearly 5,000 searches over that period, more than 3 a day on average, and it's believed that they handed her figures only on more thorough, intimate searches. So there was actually a lot more of it going on than the figures they did. They said there was 650, but in fact there was 5,000 because they weren't counting the ones in which they didn't check body cavities. But you still had a child undressed in front of police officers. Critics of the controversial practice have now called for an urgent Home Office review into guidance for officers across England and Wales. Now, this is a piece by Georgia Wood. Georgia Wood was just 12 when she was searched by 2 policewomen with no appropriate adult present. That in itself is an offence, I think. She's now 25 and still suffers nightmares, panic attacks and a distrust of anyone in authority. Never trust the police. This is the example of why these bastards in blue should never be trusted. They're undressing children, strangers, children, your children, our children. They're just undressing them. In a room. No supervision, no appropriate adult, no medical person present, nothing. Just get in there and take your clothes off. There's a word for that. Because if someone who wasn't a policeman was doing it, they'd be arrested. Georgia was shocked to discover that on average more than 1,000 children are searched each year by UK police forces. She said, "Why is this still going on? I thought things had changed. It's crazy that this is happening. The police are treating young and sometimes vulnerable children like adults. They don't consider the harm this does every time a child is put through it. And even now, if I'm in a small room at work with strangers, it brings back the memory of what has happened. She has been permanently traumatised by the police. Going through airport security can bring on a panic attack. I'm thinking, I know I haven't done anything wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong when I was searched by the police aged 12. Terrified Georgia was bundled into a police car in South Wales over a product investigation. Her mother, Karen Archer, was put in another car and the pair were driven 10 miles to Neath police station to be searched separately. Nothing was found and no charges were ever brought against the mother or daughter, who live on a 5-acre small holding near Pontedor, I hope I pronounced that right, in Swansea. Georgia, who works as a civil servant, said, "What happened to me that day was a life-changing event. The police had a duty to protect me that day, but instead I was made to undress in front of strangers. They scared me." Now, if you force a child to undress in front of strangers, you should be in prison, because that, if at the very least, is grooming, and in fact should actually be considered an S crime. Those police officers should be arrested and charged with an S crime, and every single policeman or policewoman who's present in a search like that, without supervision and without a court order and without a medical person present, should be arrested, charged with an S offence and put into jail and never work as a policeman again, and should be on that register for the rest of their damn lives. These people are sick, grooming child abusers. There's no other word for it. Anyway, National Manager at the Children's Society, Claire Aldis, said, "Searches like this can be a horrible and intrusive experience for children, and the national guidance says they should only be carried out when absolutely necessary." I have a solution, and I've said this before, and that is that no police officer ever should be allowed to perform a search. A search must only be performed by a medically qualified personnel, and it must never be performed anywhere other than in a medical facility. Not in a classroom that happened before, not in a police station. The child must be taken to an appropriate medical care system, be it a hospital or a clinic or some such, and the search must only be performed by a medically trained personnel. Now that, I think, is something that would protect the child and would stop the police from getting their gratuitous, free CP. Effectively, these people are just enjoying a free show of CP. They're sick. Police chiefs insisted that searches were a last resort. Well, not if they're doing 3 and 4 a day, they're not. And were often necessary to protect children enslaved by gangs. No one's denying that. But the way you're doing it is wrong. The child queue scandal sparked an outcry in March when a safeguarding report found the search was unjustified and that racism was likely to be a factor. No, was most definitely a factor in the officer's decision making. The schoolgirl was taken out of an exam and searched by 2 female officers who were looking for a bit of weed. And without any appropriate adult present, no product was found. And this is what we've got. These officers are going in without any authority, without a court order, without supervision, taking a girl from the middle of an exam, taking her to a room in the school, forcing her to undress while they watched. And this girl was menstruating. Where's the dignity? Where is the safeguarding? Why are police doing this? Why have they got this power? If they're that concerned, at the very least they wait till the end of the exam. They then take that child to, as I say, the nearest hospital. They can stand outside the door and the doctor, it's a 5-minute operation. The doctor can do a very brief examination and say, look, there's nothing there. I found nothing. The girl can then redress in privacy with dignity and be on her damn way with a massive apology from the police and probably with some form of compensation. The Independent Office for Police Conduct is investigating the child Q case from December along with 4 others. 2 investigations involve 16-year-old boys searched in custody with no appropriate adult at police stations, i.e. gratuitous child P, performance. An S offence is occurring there. And the watchdog is also examining the search of a 15-year-old girl in a cell in December and one further case which took place this year, and it is expected to reveal its findings next month. I will most definitely be waiting for that. I will do a report on that, and that will most definitely be a video. So keep them peeled for that one. Almost a quarter of 650 more thorough intimate part searches on children by the Met over 2 years had no appropriate adult present. An IOP recommendation after the child Q scandal. And the spokesman for the National Police Chiefs Council said the alternative to a search would be more likely arrest followed by a search in custody. That's fine. Arrest them, but don't search them. Police should not be searching children. Why do police feel it necessary to undress and ogle children? Because that's what this is. The police are groomers. This is child P, ography. And this is an S offence, and every single one of them, jail, all the way for what they are doing. Because if any other person did that, if anyone else went into a school, grabbed a child, took them into a room and forced them to undress, you can guarantee they'd be up in front of a magistrate, quick as your feet would touch, straight to Crown Court and give them 5 years minimum. It's disgusting, and this is the police force we have. We have a police force of P's and groomers, and there's nothing we can do until they change the law and until they start arresting these bastards. This is industrial. This is a process. The police up and down the country are snatching children from the street, undressing them, searching them, often without an appropriate adult or parental knowledge. They're just doing it on a whim. There seems to be no control on it. This is clearly wrong. This needs to be addressed. And seriously, heads need to roll. Any officer that's undressing a child like this must be committing a crime, must be committing an S crime, must be prosecuted. They've got to be prosecuted. The signals have got to go out that this is not acceptable. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes children don't need to be searched. Yes, of course they do. But it's got to be exceptional. And it's got to be performed by anyone other than the police. We cannot have random policemen snatching children from the streets and undressing them for their own sordid, gratuitous pleasure. Because I can guarantee sometimes that's going to be the reason. And with 60% of the searches against black children, where they represent only 3% of the population, that horrendous level of racism has also got to be looked at, investigated, and again, the senior officers need to lose their jobs, because it's only by the senior officers losing their jobs that any change is ever going to happen, because you need to put the fear of God into these people. The police are not your friend. They never have been, and they continue to be actively the enemy of the people. It needs to be sorted, and I thank you for listening. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Please ring the bell for notifications for future output. Leave a like. Please leave a comment. Definitely share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and for God's sake, protect your children. And goodbye.